Hello and welcome to the Thursday, December 26th, 2019 edition of Tesla Daily, unofficial Tesla podcast. My name is Rob Maurer. Today we are talking about an updated note from Wedbush, updated short interest, and a few pieces of news from Twitter. Tesla stock on the day today continued to set new intraday and close all-time highs, with the intraday peaking at $433.48 and the close at $430.94, up 1.3%, which compared to the Nasdaq up 0.8%. In the past day or so, Managing Director of Equity Research at Wedbush Securities, Daniel Ives, has released an updated note on Tesla increasing its price target from $270 per share to $370 per share. We talked about Wedbush about a week and a half ago when Dan Ives was on CNBC and was saying that, quote, "I would be the first one to say you've got to give all the credit to Musk and Tesla. They've proved many wrong, including us, that there was a near-term issue. And I think right now you're seeing the shorts go into hibernation mode until they can prove there's another issue, but for right now, I think you will see the stock continue to go up in a short squeeze," end quote. And of course, since then we have seen the stock continue to go up. Wedbush is interesting because as of October, so 2 months ago, they had a $220 price target on Tesla and have now rapidly increased that up to $370 per share. Again, still below today's price. I don't say this is interesting because I put necessarily a lot of weight in every analyst note. Certainly there are some worth listening more closely to than others. But it's interesting because it's yet another signal stacked on top of all these other signals that we have that the fundamental perception of Tesla is changing. So anyway, in this most recent note, Wedbush said, quote, "If Tesla is able to sustain this level of profitability and demand going forward, especially in Europe and China, then the stock will open up a new chapter of growth and multiple expansion," end quote. So multiple expansion here means the value of the stock compared to some underlying fundamental value. So think of it like price to sales, price to earnings, price to enterprise value, any of those things. Those are called multiples. So here Ives is coming back to the two things that I always say are the most important for Tesla as a stock, demand and profitability. He's saying as the outlook for those improves, those justify higher multiples, and that's where you can see the stock price really accelerate. The other interesting part about this note is that Ives seems to have adopted the Adam Jonas strategy of having a bear case, a base case, and a bull case. I don't know if this is necessarily new because I don't have access to these notes specifically, but on this note, thefly.com says, quote, "Ives values the Tesla bear case at $200 to $220 per share and the bull case at $580 to $600 per share. However, he's still taking a, quote, wait-and-see approach to see how sustainable this level of demand/profitability is going forward," end quote, before becoming more constructive on Tesla shares, end quote. So not only do we get a bear and a bull case, but we also get a price target range within those bear and bull cases. So we have 200 to 220, 370, and then 580 to 600. On the top end there, that's actually higher than Adam Jonas's bull case, which is $500 per share. Again, without having seen these notes, I don't want to give them too hard of a time. I think the price targets are often overemphasized, and the actual research and more of the details behind the scenes in those notes are what's actually more important. Nevertheless, I do still find those ranges, especially when it's $400, to be a little bit humorous. Last quick thing on this note, Ives apparently did mention short interest again. Bloomberg says that, quote, "According to Ives, the rally was fueled by, quote, massive short covering," end quote, in addition to improving fundamentals, end quote. Which leads us perfectly into the next topic of an update on short interest. So this came out on the 24th. I did tweet about this, but let's go through it in detail now. This is for the December 13th reporting date, so this still lags behind as usual, and a lot has changed since that point in time. The share price closed at $358.39 that day, but that being said, short interest from November 29th to December 13th declined by about 1.2 million shares, so about 4% decrease in the number of shares sold short. Compared to that 4% decline, the share price actually increased by 9% over that same period. So on the 29th of November, it closed at $329.94, and then on the 13th of December closed again at $358.39. So overall in that couple weeks span, not a huge decline in short interest, but I think the next report is going to be extremely interesting because since the 13th, we've seen the share price increase by 20% in less than 2 weeks. So the next short interest report date is January 10th for the settlement date of December 31st. That lines up pretty interestingly because the 31st might be the last trading day before we get the Q4 delivery announcement. Again, that should happen on either January 2nd or January 3rd, meaning not only will this update give us insight into how much short covering there's been over this 20% plus increase that we've seen so rapidly, we also get a nice snapshot of where short interest sits heading into this major event. So again, that update will be on January 10th after market close. Next today, we have a handful of tweets to go through, both from Elon and from a couple other parties as well. So we'll start with Elon. He shared quite a bit in a series of tweets, beginning with confirmation that Disney Plus is, quote, coming soon, end quote, to Teslas. We kind of already knew about that from the leaked images that Green the Only had shared. They were kind of hiding beneath the surface in the code. Speaking of, we'll actually come back to Green a little bit later. But continuing with Elon, he also said that they are rolling out superchargers as fast as possible, but that they still need to ramp up V3. So it's been clear that that has improved, as we've seen more and more of those V3 stations come online, specifically with the Trans-Canada route, but does still sound like it's in the ramping stage. The next was, Elon was asked if navigation could have a waypoint feature with multiple destinations, and he simply said, quote, no, end quote, later adding that, quote, car should auto-navigate to destination based on your calendar. If nothing in calendar, should do work in morning and home in evening. Future versions will have guess based on your prior patterns, if preference enabled, end quote. This one's a bit weird to me and seems to be also a bit surprising to people on Twitter from scrolling through reactions. I mean, at first I honestly thought he was just kidding when he said no. Obviously, when you're traveling, you don't always have all of those stops planned out, or certainly not in your calendar. So it's really nice to have some flexibility to add waypoints, to add some flexibility to your route as you travel and as things arise. Maybe you need to pull over and get some food. Maybe you need to find the closest restroom. Maybe you want to stop and do some shopping. I mean, all of these are realistic things that you would not have in your calendar that you would want to add a waypoint for, while still keeping your final destination and tracking towards that, despite needing to add a spur of the moment quicker stop. So I was a bit surprised to see that. Maybe I'm just not thinking about this right, or something's getting lost in translation, but hopefully Tesla does revisit that if that is their stance today. Next up, Everyday Astronaut asks, quote, can we get the ability to get phone notifications when Sentry mode goes off? Bonus points if we can check out the footage like you can with a near cam. Or be able to see a live feed of the cameras at any time on our phones too. To which Elon replied, quote, phone notification with ability to view possibly relevant still images is no problem. Live video from several cameras is too much bandwidth, end quote. I thought Sentry mode already provided some sort of alerts, but maybe I'm mistaken on that. But anyway, still images would be great if you could see those with those phone notifications. The live video makes sense. Elon did, though, add in a follow-up that potentially a low-res video could be possible at some point in the future, but basically said that the fleet has grown to the point where small things like that have really big impacts. So maybe that's sort of a negative in this context, but overall, this sort of thing is a huge, huge positive for Tesla and just highlights the growing opportunity they have to leverage their software across this growing fleet. Even things like this live video stream, obviously at this point it would be a lower priority item, but once Tesla has a big enough fleet, there could be a great option here to allow customers that are demanding that feature to be able to pay for a little bit higher level of connectivity to have access to features like that. It just doesn't quite make sense at this point in time. Elon addressed that saying, quote, it's not that these things can't be done, they just absorb a lot of software engineering time, which has great opportunity cost. There are very few excellent software engineers, and merely increasing team size results in awful bloatware, end quote. In the future, as Tesla builds out its software and tackles more of the higher priority things and the fleet size grows, these lower priority things grow in importance. You start to see some of them being added and then contributing to the bottom line, both a good thing for customers and for shareholders. Just a ton of exciting potential there. The next tweet that I wanted to mention was again from Green the Only, who tweeted yesterday, quote, looking at Hardware 3 image more closely, we can see that redundancy stuff is now apparently live in 2019.40.50.1, or at least the B node starts the full copy of the autopilot software instead of getting stuck in the quote-unquote do-nothing loop, end quote. Elon seemingly then confirmed that they are utilizing that redundancy in Hardware 3 when he retweeted with comment a Teslarati article on these tweets saying, quote, activating engine 2, end quote. Pretty cool to continue to see all of these little switches being flipped as we convert over to Hardware 3 providing new utility. The last tweet I wanted to mention today is from the Twitter account @TeslaCN, which I don't have official confirmation on that this is an official Tesla account, but it seems to be based on, again, a few weeks ago we had the general manager of China, who does have a confirmed Weibo account, sharing tweets from this Twitter account on his Weibo account. So sort of a roundabout way there, but it does seem like this may be a legitimate account. Anyway, on the 24th, this account tweeted, quote, "China-made Model 3 will be delivered to customers soon. Stay tuned," end quote, paired with an image saying happy holidays. So a couple things on this if this account is to be believed. Number one, that means that deliveries have not actually started yet in China, meaning I'm continuing with my stance of until we see actual reports from actual owners in China, I'm not going to believe that deliveries have started yet. And then the second, more obvious point would be that they're saying that it's coming soon. So soon could mean January, or it could mean now. We don't know. My guess is at this point, we're so close to January, we might as well wait, because otherwise Tesla's going to be delivering cars that are taking a huge depreciation and amortization hit, and will have poor margins, and that'll hit Q4 financials, versus if they roll that into Q1, they're going to be able to spread that over a larger volume of cars, reducing that impact. And if all of those things are true, then that means that Tesla should be pretty confident that they'll hit their delivery number target for Q4 without needing to deliver those made in China Model 3s. So that's kind of my take on that situation, and that'll wrap it up for today. So as always, thank you for listening. If you have any questions or feedback, you can send those to me at tesladailypodcast@gmail.com. I'd also encourage you to follow me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, you can find details about doing that at patreon.com/Tesla Daily Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Friday, December 27th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.